Hey guys, welcome to Unit 7, Section 3, which is special right triangles. So we've been working with the Pythagorean theorem and right triangles up to this point. There's two main types of special right triangles though that we refer to. That's the 45, 45, 90, and then the 30, 60, 90. Because these triangles, regardless of their side lengths, have a special pattern between the legs and the hypotenuse. So when we're talking about the 45, 45, 90, remember that's going to be an isosceles triangle because those angles are the same. So the sides across from them are also going to be the same. That's why we see x and x. So the legs are congruent, and then the hypotenuse is equal to the leg times the square root of 2. So we're going to see that relationship a lot with the square root of 2. And then over here, this time we do want to identify like the short leg, long leg, and hypotenuse. So the short leg is the one you always want to figure out first. That's the one across from the 30 degrees. That one is half the size of the hypotenuse. So it goes back and forth. If we know that this one is 5, then the hypotenuse has to be 10. Or let's say that we knew that the hypotenuse was 8. We know that this has to be 4. We can go back and forth pretty easily. The toughest part is when you have this, you have to remember that when you go to the long leg, so the long leg equals the short leg times the square root of 3. So if this side is 4, and this side is 4 with the square root of 3 attached to it. Okay? So let's go ahead and practice some problems with this. This first one, look for the key pieces. Like in this one, we see the 45, and that's 90, meaning this is 45. So this is the leg, because those are across from the 45-degree angles. So those are the same. So we know x is going to equal 6, and then this side down here, this is the hypotenuse. So you can go back up here. The way if you want, you can set it up like this every time. So this would be hypotenuse, I'm just going to put hype equals leg times the square root of 2. And then we just replace it. So the hypotenuse is y, the leg is going to be 6, and then square root of 2. There we get our answer, actually. Y equals the square root of 2. Or 6 times the square root of 2, excuse me. And that makes sense because we see the 6 here, so we just multiply that by the square root of 2. This one, now notice we're starting with the long leg, and the long leg is this part right here. So the long leg is equal to the short leg, and the short leg is x, and that's going to be times the square root of 3. And we do know the long leg is going to be 8 square root of 3. So if we want to solve for x, we're just going to divide by the square root of 3. So it's going to be 8 equals x, and now that we know that that's 8, remember that the relationship between the short leg and the hypotenuse is it's 2 times bigger. So if this one's 8 here, that means this has got to be 16 because it's twice as large. So x equals 8, y equals 16. All right, let's keep going here. So this one, we're solving for x. X is the hypotenuse, but we already see the 4 square root of 2 as the legs. So what we're going to have to do for this one is take 4 square root of 2, and we're going to multiply it with another square root of 2, because that's how you get the hypotenuse. And the trick for this one is, so just take it times the square root of 2. So you have 4 times the square root of 4, which is the same as 4 times 2, which equals 8. So x equals 8. This time we have the short leg to start out with. That's our 7. So if we want to get to the hypotenuse, it's short leg times 2 equals the hypotenuse. So the short leg is 7. 7 times 2 equals 14. So y equals 14. And then if we want to get to the other one, to x, it's short leg times square root of 3 equals long leg. So the short leg is going to be 7 square root of 3. That gives us the long leg, so that's our x. And the more you practice it, the better you'll get with these. It's just one of those things that we have to practice. All right, we're almost there. This time we're working backwards. We have the square root of 2 and the 9. This is the hypotenuse. And if the hypotenuse is equal to, so it's our leg times the square root of 2. So just replace what you know. The hypotenuse is this 9 square root of 2. The leg is going to be x, and then the square root of 2. So we want to get x by itself. So we actually have to divide because we're going backwards. So we're going to divide by the square root of 2, and we get x equals 9, which is a reasonable answer because we know going forward, 9 times the square root of 2 would have to be the hypotenuse. Now the trick, though, is what if we don't have the square root of 2? So if I use this same equation right here, then I would have 12 is the hypotenuse, the leg is x, and the square root of 2. When I divide by the square root of 2, I can't have my answer like this. I have to get rid of that radical. So the trick is you got to multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. We have to rationalize that denominator. You get 12 square root of 2 over 2 because the radical sign goes away. And then we can simplify this because 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then we have the square root of 2 next to it. So the answer is going to be x equals 6 times the square root of 2. All right, last one here, kind of a challenge, is just putting it all together. So if you start with w, that's the easiest one to find. This here, since the legs are the same, the angles are the same, forcing that to be a 45, 45. So what we're going to get, if this is 4, to get to w, it's going to be just times the square root of 2. So it's 4 times the square root of 2. And if this side is 4, this side over here is also 4. And this is the short leg of this triangle. So since that's 4, to get to the hypotenuse, which is x, we just take it 4 times 2. So that's going to be 8. And then to go the other way, to get to y, the long leg, that's where we have to recognize that square root of 3. So that's going to be 4 times the square root of 3. And then z is the last part. So 4 square root of 3, this leg right here is part of a 45, 45, 90. So to get to z, remember it is hypotenuse equals leg times the square root of 2. But if the leg, which is what we just solved for, y, the hypotenuse is z equals 4 square root of 3 times the square root of 2, we're going to get z equals 4 times the square root of 6, because you can multiply the 3 and the 2 since they both have radicals. Okay, so that is it for the practice problems. Go ahead.